Wisconsin?
Alaska.
Alaska. He probably hasn't got up on the news. Very cool. A lot of docs in Wisconsin who are doing topless. Yeah, and a doc in Flint. If you're ever driving through there and you want to go visit Jack Cribs.
There's a doc in Alive doing it. In the outpatient clinic.
What else? Instrumentation. There used to be single probe called chirometers or chirotherms. Some people use those these things. Clicky things. I would not.
Why do you have it?
Huh?
Why do you have it?
To test it. Anything else? Instrumentation. Okay. Why heat instrumentation? What does it measure? Why heat instrumentation? What does it measure? Good. See, these are easy questions. Why do we measure heat?
Inflammation. To check for sympathetic.
Inflammation. Check for
Sympathetic.
the baby. Want to answer? Check for sympathetic control, lack of control. Do you have an instrumentation class?
Yes.
Who's been in that class?
Checking for differential.
What are we checking for? Why do we check for a differential?
To see which side is.
Speaking Spanish, nobody will know. Why measure heat? Why measure it in the first place? I mean, that's probably a good question because most of you are not being taught it. Autonomics. It's a measure of. Why measure the autonomics?
To see if the body's in stress.
Okay, see if the body's stressed. See how the body adapts to stress. How do we measure that with a thermometer or NCM? So that's another instrument. That's a separate thing. And you can also do what? Heart rate variability. But we're talking about heat instrumentation right now.
Sympathetic cause vasoconstriction.
Okay, vasodilation and vasoconstriction, that's what it's measuring. But what does that have to do with the vertebral subluxation?
Because essentially in a unsubluxated person, it can be the same on each side. So if it's different, then it implies that there's a difference in the way that the nerves are functioning, at least at that area.
Would you agree with that? That it should be the same on each side? So it should be just a straight line every time you scan? No. Yes? No. Yes. No. No. Yes. You see how certainty begins to fade? This is important stuff to know. And most of you have been through the class. You should have gotten this information and you should have gotten this certainty of its use or the non-certainty of it. No, that's crap. Right? That's a potato spinner. That doesn't work. But yeah, this works for why. We don't have time to go over the whys and the intricacies of it. But it's super important for you to study that. And if you didn't get it in class, you need to find some place to get it. Either go back to your teacher and say, dude, what's up? Well, do that. What's up? Why do we do this? What's the goal of a normally functioning body? One word. Not homeostasis, because homeostasis is an end product, not a process.
Adaptation.
Adaptation. Adaptation means what? One word. Change. 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 I'm sweating. I wasn't sweating when I was sitting over there before. And my body's adapting. Your body should always be adapting. Every moment of every day to every internal and external environmental change. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when I run a scan, any test I take, any metric, if I take up blood pressure, it should change from moment to moment. If I do heart rate variability, it should change moment for moment. If I do a scan, it should constantly be changing. So when I do a scan and it looks like this beautiful S-curve today, and tomorrow, and I take it and it looks like this beautiful S-curve tomorrow, and next week this beautiful S-curve, and a month an S-curve, and a year an S-curve, that's not so kosher. That's not working. Because what that's saying is that the human body at that moment is not adapting. It's not changing. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's our manifestation or expression of the lack of mental impulse control to change that neurology that we put up on the wall after the safety pin. Give the chiropractic adjustment the right chiropractic adjustment. There is only one right chiropractic adjustment. Change the physiology, and now you'll see an S-curve today, a straight line tomorrow, a C here, a little bit of this there. Always changing. Why? Just like we said before, 0 to 7 years, they have these challenges. 7 to 14, they have these challenges. I had a tough day at the office. I'm on my period. Whatever the case may be. Should always be changing. Does that make sense? Is that a pretty easy way of understanding why the validity of paraspinal heat readings are so valid to you? Because now you could tie into the expression of the mental impulse. What other tests can do that? Really, what other tests can do that? Spinography, what's that? Yeah. Chiropractic analysis of x-rays. Do we take x-rays of kids? Well, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Are there special times that we would take them? Yeah. We have a validity. We have a set program of when we would start taking x-rays, when we would analyze the spinographs, when the need is, so forth. Leg length equality. Can we check the leg length of newborns to maturity like we do in adults? Of course we can. Are they valid? Of course they are. Do you need to master it? Of course you do. Palpation, what? Yeah, you got to palpate. You got to know what you're feeling for. You got to be able to find an atlas and an axis. In fact, not only do you need to find an atlas and an axis, but you need to, still packed in my bag, find, does anybody have an atlas and axis with them? Just an atlas? Well, we've got an atlas, right? So I shouldn't even speak. This one's a bit. Hotel stuff.
Do you need one?
You got one?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead. Please. Huge, right? Huge. Is this a model, just a baby one? That's an adult, right? And this is located where? And I don't have a lot of tissue there, right? I don't have a lot of tissue there, right? I guess that was a point I had to repeat. Do I have a lot of tissue up here?
Yeah.
A lot of musculature?
Yep.
Yeah.
A ton, right? Why? Because this is so freely movable. So what does the innate do? It builds everything up around it to protect it because it knows that it needs to be secure, but it also needs the range of movement to allow it to survive. Real ones, no less. What bone is that? What did BJ like to call this bone? And I would be really impressed if somebody gets this. What? What'd you say?
Extremity.
C2 is not an extremity, but C3 is definitely pushing it. He called this epistropius, was his favorite word, and he preferred to call this the odontoid, not the dens. So this is an adult epistropius. In the auto specific, do you know how many contact points are on this thing? 3 contact points. And this is what is exposed to you. 3 contact points with what part of the contact on the doctor? Do you think that you better practice of being on the right spot? How important that is? Do you see why palpation is super important? You can't just guess. Well, yeah, I think it's somewhere right here between the mastoid fossa and the ramus. What? No. But not like it's like there. It's there, or you don't adjust. Reflexes. Now this depends on the age, and we'll go over it. Everybody knows who's been through OBGYN and peds? Everybody? You know that there are... So you haven't had reflexes yet? Yeah. Okay, we'll go over that. That's okay. Important to know for a child, neurological maturation occurs from up, down, obviously, right? Above, down. Cephalic to caudal, medial to lateral, from the inside out, gross to finite. Brain development is the most important in the first 3 years of life. Now, there are some other things that are important that go on for like 7 years, like language, right? But neurologically, neuroplastically, those first 3 years are the super most important. You know they've done all those crazy studies where they take an animal and not give it any, like touch it at all, and they get all jacked up. If they've messed up, cover one eye, the brain develops. Even if the eye is functioning when they do it, the brain develops a lack of depth perception. Even both eyes now fully. Okay, so super important. Is it important that you check all children?
Yes. Yes.
Is it important that we check all children?
Yes.
Yes. Do you know when Caleb, number 4, not this Caleb, he's a little smaller than my Caleb. Do you know when he got his first chiropractic adjustment? At 8.5 months. 8.5. How old is Joey's? 7 months. Hasn't been adjusted yet. I checked her in Texas last time I was there. Most don't need to be adjusted. They don't have what we've been through. Yes, they have other stressors, but they don't have the crap that we had. Now, oh, doc, but these kids now have been they've been vaccinated and they're given Similac and baby formula and all that stuff. Even still, doesn't mean that they're subluxated. Check them. Check them for life. Have them come in regularly. They don't need to be adjusted all the time. The least you have to adjust, the least you will ever have to adjust them. You got that? And the least you have to adjust them, the longer time innate is on the job. Restoration is occurring and normal function is occurring. Here are some of the reflexes that those that haven't had it will learn. Suckling and rooting, the fencer, and the grasp reflex. They're reflexes because the neural pathways haven't completed. Once they are complete, after a certain amount of time, they lose the reflex. Everybody's heard of Babinski's, right? Bottom of the foot. You lose that after a few months. Children are not little adults. Their structures vary depending on the age and level of health. Curves vary with the age. Primary C at birth. Cervical lordosis, 6 months. Lumbar lordosis, 1 year. Osseous differences. Center still developing, cartilaginous. Has anyone seen x-rays of babies? It's like alien, right? It's like the craziest stuff. Most of them are cartilaginous. The ossification centers have just started. So when you see that stuff, it looks really weird. But if you palpate, you could actually palpate it, right? It's the same thing in an adult. You'll run on some patient the whole workup. You'll take the spinographs. They'll go. End of the night, you put them up in the view box and like no posterior arch. Boom, nothing there. Just an anterior arch and the lateral mass. The thing is to know, it's not that there's nothing there. It's there. It's just not calcified. The ossification is never completed. There's a cartilaginous ring there. If you palpate it, you would palpate the cartilaginous ring. Do you think that will affect your adjustment? It should factor in. Do you think it will affect how long they hold? It should factor in. Because remember, everything is contingent upon the matter through which innate works. Does it make sense that the sicker I get with time, the principle of time, that the matter I have now is different than the matter I had when I started the journey away from health? Is this matter now weaker than that matter was? Meaning more susceptible to the ravages of the universal forces. You have to put on your chiropractic mentality hat and have to view everything that you do chiropractically. The only way you do that is if you understand the philosophy, and that's what I keep on impressing on you. Spinographic evaluation. With children, spinographic analysis will be done typically not before those calcification or ossification centers are closed. Right? And there's a range in there. Why take it if it's still modeling? Now I'll ask the same question. Why would you take it if the ossification centers haven't closed? Would there ever be a reason?
Wouldn't depend on your technique.
Forget technique. I'm just talking, let's say, even just my technique. We'll just stay with that.
Listing. They're in pattern. They're not getting better.
I just said that normally I wouldn't want to take an X-ray until the ossification centers are closed, because then I know it's not remodeling anymore, and then I know it's on. So then, would there ever be a case that I would take it before? Yeah, so trauma would be one, severe, right? Not like he fell over. Severe. Or
Congenital defects.
presentation, meaning
Say if you have, I'm not saying correctly what you're going to say, but it doesn't look normal.
okay.
Like saying,
Say, Mom, your kid don't look normal.
I mean, I wouldn't say
Oh,
that,
okay.
but
Definitely don't say that.
if it doesn't look normal, things aren't moving the way that they probably should.
Okay.
Probably won't.
Hold that thought. We'll get back to that.
Congenital defects.
Congenital defects, which you might not know to begin with, or they already have the X-rays on them to know, right?
Or you feel something
Okay.
in their spine or something.
Which probably they would have been checked at by the medic before and probably would have known, but maybe not. Okay. How about you did your analysis that we would do before those ossifications closed, and we took X-rays before that age. You did your analysis, you adjusted them, and they weren't clearing out. Do you think that that might be a valid reason to take spinografts? That would be yes. Yes? Yes. If they're really, really sick, I mean, like not like a cold, but like dying sick, do you think that that might be a reason to check first? Yeah, so there are a couple of criteria, a couple of exceptions to the rule of waiting that you would want to take spinografts. For the most part, until those close, we're going to go over a couple of things and tools I'm going to give you tonight that you can use without taking spinografts. Does that sound good? Yeah. So this is the alien pictures. Here's a little type. And it's really cool. I mean, you can see how the plates are enclosed. Atlas and axis, an A-to-P open mouth. Can you see the fingers of Mom holding him down? Obviously, you have to do that if you're going to take it, and especially if you don't have like a hospital there where it's a lying table, something up against, and you hold it. We've done that quite a few times with some really sick babies. This is a really cool story. Hit those. I was gifted this clinic book from one of my teachers, Dr. Crowder, who was the director of the B.J. Palmer Research Clinic, and in it had a whole lot of information on the clinic in cases like this. And at the very back of the book were these black pages that I only thought were black pages. And they were, this book is old. It's probably from 1930s, 40s, no, from 40s. And I didn't know. And I started to clean it up, and I pulled out one of the black pages, and it wasn't a black page. It was a spinograph. And I held it up to the light, and I'm like, holy crap. That's a spinograph of a baby. And then I had 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, a year, 2, 3, all the way up to 7 years of these cases. And I'm looking at these things, and the first thing that struck me, I have a few Facebook friends left, and I saw this name. You can turn on the light. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. This was 1957 when these were taken. Stu Humberg in Tennessee. I said, Stu, do you have, and it was all messed up at the ages, I didn't realize. I said, do you have a mom or this with a name D? He's like, no. My sister's Diane. Dude, what year was your sister born? 1957. I said, Stu, would she have any way been to the B.J. Palmer Research Clinic? His dad was a chiropractic student at B.J. Palmer Research Clinic when she was born. There were some problems, and they took her in. This is the x-ray of my friend's sister. We're like, wow, what a small world. And that's just a little tidbit. That's really cool. Okay, when x-rays are not utilized, we talk about that alternative assessments that can be used to aid in determining possible subluxated areas. We're going to go over these in a second. Here's the key to understand. Which chiropractic exam is flawless? Which one? What do you mean none? It's got to be one, right? Which one's flawless? None. Not one? None.
The one that you don't know how to do.
The one that I don't know how to do. I haven't learned yet. There is none. There is no exam that is without flaw. X-rays are flawed. Thermographic analysis, flawed. All of them have flaws. The idea is to master them so that you know what the flaws are, so that you can use that in your evaluation and understand the hierarchy and the meaning of what each one brings to it. So if I don't have x-rays, for me that's the gold standard of what the osseous component of the vertebral subluxation is. Although flawed, it's still the best one. If I can't take it for whatever reason, whatever the age, there are others I can use, but now I have to understand that it's even less valid to a certain percentage than those would have been. Is that clear? So some of those are field listings, palpation, reverse sensors, and graph interpretation. A field listing is what BJ talked about in one of the green books, and it's about what their posture looks like. So if their posture looks like this, we make a certain assumption that the atlas is moved a certain way, and that the axis is moved a certain way. You make the call, you adjust on that. Palpation, we know motion palpation does a lot with that. Even Gonstead uses a huge amount of motion palpation. They'll take the x-ray, but then actually hold higher their motion palpation of the unit. Reverse sensors, this is one of those reflexes that is good from about newborn to about 6 months, and that's when they begin to disappear. And they're really cool. A little scary to show mom, but they can give a really valid information. Graph interpretation is probably a lost art. We teach that at the Art of the Specific, but that basically was break analysis. But break analysis on a per level combined with the pattern work would give information of atlas laterality, atlas rotation, axis involvement, and things like that. Like I said, it's a fairly lost art. Here we have a doctora from Spain, actually from Greece, that works in Spain, Lula, who is one of the most beautiful people in the world. She has such an amazing way with people. It's one of those, you ever been in the presence of someone that you just, no matter what is going on in your day, totally disarms you? Just, you don't even know why. That's Lula. She's amazing, and she's amazing with the kids. Here's Lula doing a field listing check. So let me just talk about field listings for a minute. And I'm going to totally confuse you here, okay? Because what BJ said, we kind of say the opposite. Although we're doing a research experiment now at the Art of the Pacific to get a little bit more data to see which is valid and which is not. The field listing, from what I was originally taught at, that was taught from BJ down, was that the high ear, the high side, was the side of atlas laterality. So this would be a left atlas, and this would be a right atlas. Okay, pretty easy. The low shoulder was the side of spinous, C2 spinous rotation. So this would be a PLI, and this would be a PRI. Okay? And we did that for a long time in Costa Rica where we practiced. We weren't able to take by law spine grafts, x-rays. We did that to send out. We did on a per case basis. But we did a lot of field checks, and we saw a lot of errors with it. And when we began developing the Art of the Specific, and we started learning more about the biomechanics of the spine, it seems that just the opposite is true. That the low side is the way that the atlas moves. So, just watch this. If I go to the right, that the atlas slides ipsilaterally, same side. That's normal biomechanics. But if it was normal biomechanics, it really shouldn't even have a head tilt. So the thought is, as it slides down and it's locked, then it stays in that position. Therefore, for us, a field listing is this low side for atlas. Can you use that with kids? Absolutely. Are they a little bit harder? Yeah, why? Right? So you have to kind of work with them as you go. If you have a super busy practice, it makes it really hard because you don't want to force it. You just kind of observe. And you'll see them have habitually one side. You get that? And that's the research that we're working on across all our artist-specific practice that we'll be initiating with the help of Dr. McCoy, one of your great research docs here, who was supposed to speak with for us this weekend, but he just messaged me he's got the flu, so he won't be able to be there. I told him to get under better care. He is under Dr. Grostic's care, but that's pretty good. Rick Grostic's a good guy. He's a great chiropractor. So that's field listings. Are we okay with field listings? So that could aid you, right? Docs that are out there now that have x-ray, do your own experiments, even if you don't do the Art of the Specific, even if you don't do the upper cervical work. Do your field listing and write it down, like I showed you, and then take the spinographs, any age, adults, kids, whatever, and then see if your analysis matches that. Here's the wild card. Here's the problem. Volume 18, which was BJ's opus on technique, on upper cervical technique, if you look at all of the pictures he shows, he talks about this. He talks about an atlas wedge high and an atlas wedge low, which basically means sometimes this is an ASR and sometimes this is an ASL. So if it's 50-50, then, the field listing, that's the best you could ever get to. That's what we want to find out with our research, but that's kind of where we're going, finding from the biomechanics. Reverse fencer. Who has ever done this to a child? Have you ever seen it done? Yeah, so this is a pretty cool reflex. And it's actually, the reflex is the fencer, not the reverse, right? So, and it's pretty brutal. You take the kid's head and literally, this is the description, forcefully twist it to one side. You should have contralateral extension, right? Okay. Maxine McMullen, does anybody know Dr. McMullen? So Dr. McMullen was my teacher way back when. She's still with us. She's a pretty cool lady. She taught OBGYN and peds, Australian accent, super, you just fall in love with her. She was a master. Before she was a chiropractor, she was an ICU, kids ICU nurse. Had a life-changing experience, became a chiropractor, but took all of that love into chiropractic. She's pretty much the one that started like all of the peds programs. Brilliant lady. She did what was called a reverse. Let's not yank the kids, like if they're not subluxated, let's not subluxate them by yanking them. So what can we do different? Well, we'll just do the opposite. If the cranking of the head is going to cause that, why don't we cause that and see if the head cranks? Make sense? So what you do is you take the baby's feet by the ankle, slowly invert them hanging upside down, and you slowly let go of one leg. So then we should have extension and head rotation to the opposite side. Right? Then you grab the other one, bring it up, let this one down, boom. Patient communication. Dr. Sullivan's probably a master of patient communication, and you're going to be helping them out in life here, yeah? Pretty cool. Patient communication is super important with mom and dad when you do this, before you do this, right? Most kids love it. They don't cry. They're like, yeah, right? But you'll see it, and it's clear as day. No subluxation, that head just turns. And like goofy me when I first learned it, I had to do it like 10 times. Cause like, wow, this is really cool. If the head does not turn to the right, that indicates right-sided laterality. Okay? Is it 100%? No, it's not 100%. Is it one of the tools that you can use? Absolutely. Till about, what, 6 months. And you'll see it begin to disappear. Now, there are a lot of children, too, that you'll see habitually that come in their car seats. Those are other clues, right? Those are other clues as to... Oh, so here it is. Get that light? So this is really cool, because a lot of people that are on these slides were students, and they are now doctors. This is Dr. Cordova Nigeli from Life West, about to do a reverse Spencer's here on this beautiful little baby. And here's Dr. Brewer, who just graduated from Life here in the last class, who is in Colorado, completing or looking to complete a reverse Spencer's. This was done in El Salvador. We have an outreach program that we do there, and this is part of our checks to do with the babies that we have. Lights, please. So are we good on field listings? Is that a good tool in your toolbox? Good. We're good on reverse Spencer's? Also good for babies? Neurocolometer and pyrometer. This was one of my teachers, my main mentor, Bud Crowder. If you get the light for a second. This is an infant neurocolometer. Most neurocolometers have a normal spread for an adult, which is about 3 inches. The child or infant neurocolometer is spaced at about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. It is thermocouple device, which means it needs to have contact with the skin. And we can read pattern and also read breaks with this. We check babies, we check all ages with this, but we could also use a thermometer, a infrared unit as well. This, I told you, is a single probe. This is also a thermocouple device called a chirometer or chirotherm. Put the light on. Which is 1,000,000 times better than this. I found this to be highly inaccurate, and this is FDA approved, type, whatever. Not that it's inaccurate, the application is inaccurate. What we're looking for, the classic multi, right? Misalignment, occlusion, pressure, interference. Even in the disapplication model, it still holds true in the normal complete cycle, all holds true with everything else. So we need ways to determine this, and we need ways to determine this. Misalignment and inclusion, that's your osseous component, that's spinographs if we need to take, that's your field listing, that's your reverse tensors, that's palpation. The pressure and interference, that then is palpation, infrared thermography, neurocalometer, heat reading instrumentation. Here again is Dr. Gorgla checking a child here. This is in a place called Soyapango, which is not the safest of places in El Salvador. Dr. Pearson, how many bodies did you see on the way? 5 bodies on the way, shot, but all protected, hopefully, our docs. But it's a pretty amazing place for the people that we check and help. 4 phases of the chiropractic adjustment. This is right out of BJ's writing. Approach on part of the chiropractic, delivery and absorption and recoil. Meaning, you have to be relaxed. If you're frantic in your office, don't even put your hands on someone. If you're contracted, if you're stressed, if you're already in a state of contraction, how could you possibly deliver a force that the other body's going to take? How could you have any speed? Right? If you've taken martial arts or boxing, do you stay like this? Right? Stressed, totally tight, or are you completely loose until the moment that you strike? So you're completely relaxed, and then you explode like a sneeze, complete contraction, and then relax even before you've reached the end of your thrust. That's where we go. I just got a message from Dr. Werner. Has a patient that hasn't been clearing out, and very tonic muscles. Said, Doc, I can't get through the muscles. I said, so my recommendation was, first of all, the thought process is not through the muscles, right? You don't have to break through the muscles. It's the target that you're trying to hit. And the second thing is relax, less force. But Doc, I was doing more force to get through the muscles. I said, exactly, you haven't been clearing the ground. So try this. He gets back to me, he said, that one already left, but I tried that on the next 5 and it works. I said, yeah, it works. You want to be in a state of complete relaxation before you give your thrust. Whatever your thrust is going to be. It doesn't have to be the other specific. If it's a Thompson, if it's a Gonstead, whatever it is, you have to be in a state of complete relaxation. Set up, yeah, of course there are going to be, I mean, you're not lying on the floor in a lump of just flesh, but you have some tonicity to it, but completely relaxed. This is going to sound weird. It's not esoteric. It's not woo-woo. It's not innate to innate. It's, I'll just say it, you're waiting for permission on the part of the patient to introduce the force. It's a moment in time. The more hands you put on people, the more people you put your hands on, the more you'll begin to sense it. It's that split moment in time that their body says, now, I give you permission. And boom, you explode, and before the body says, whoa, what's that? You're done and out. You will see it makes the world of difference. Doesn't matter the size of the patient, the muscularity of the patient, whatever. This is what you want to work with. It's not our job to muscle through it. In fact, for us in the other specific, the type of work that we do, it's a catch-22 with women. And we have some of the baddest ass women in our technique, but there's the factor of they feel they need to muscle it in because they're compared to guys like Joey and Brandon that tower over me and these big muscle guys, and they set up on that speeder and go boom, boom. So the woman feels like but the key is speed. They have speed like crazy way over these big guys. So if they could just get out of their head that they need to muscle it in, their adjusted thrust is such a beautiful piece of art to watch. So that's what you need to do. Speed, 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 speed. Speed overcomes it all. And those are the adjustments that people say, wow, that was really smooth. It's not supposed to be like bland. Some of them sometimes are a little bland, but it's supposed to be smooth. Recoil. Toggle recoil. Recoil is not flying away, your hair flying up like B.J. Palmer and falling over your patient. That's not recoil. Recoil is not a part of the patient. They're innate. You introduce universal force. Their innate has to recoil from that force. Then it comes back at it. It takes that universal force, converts it to an innate force, and makes the chiropractic adjustment. Who's this? Turn up that, please. Who's that chiropractor?
Miles Sherman? That's Clay. J. Clay.
J. Clay Thompson. J. Clay Thompson, of which the technique is named after now, I think would be very sad that his technique is no longer being taught with thermographic analysis. This guy wrote papers and papers on thermographic analysis. That chirometer single probe I showed you, he's the inventor of that. He did that. I actually knew him personally. He did that till his very end. So whatever technique you do, you can always include thermographic analysis. Who's this guy? With the bald heads. That's me. How crazy is that? So here's a baby. Okay, turn the light for a second. So the adjusting thrust. The other specific is majorly a knee posture technique. You've seen pictures of BJ adjusting the knee posture position, upper cervical. We also adjust in the side posture. We also adjust, if necessary, against the wall on a wall-mounted unit. Really depends on the ability of the patient to assume a position or not, right? So we have patients that actually don't have legs. It's kind of be hard for them to be in a knee-chest position. You get that? So you have to adapt to that. For kids, now let's talk about the adjusting thrust. For most kids, we would still use the knee posture position. And you can see this is still a little bit of an older. This is Dr. Cordova again. And in the knee posture position, she was just able to get into this, which is okay. Some children that are smaller than this little chiquita, but not a baby, sometimes we just have them stand and bend over onto the table, right? Any of the... Do I like that? Well, maybe not. Sorry. So here's Dr. Brewer about to adjust a child who is really, you see, we had paper here, we tried, really inconsolable. Remember I told you we're waiting for permission. Obviously, if they're screaming and arching their back up, we don't want to force it in. So here's mom holding the child, and here's Dr. Jane just waiting and waiting for this set up, wait for that permission, and mom now becomes the table. Here are the really cool father-son team, Nick and Dennis Werner. It's a really great story. Dr. Werner, the elder, practiced diversified. His father was a chiropractor at Common College. His father was a chiropractor. Dennis practiced 35 years diversified. Nick goes to Life West with Dr. McCarthy, actually in the same class. They graduated together. Super good friends, super good people. Said, Dad, I'm studying this upper cervical work, the art of specific. Why don't you come study with me? Turn on the light, please. His dad studies with him and is like, wow. And then just, after 35 years, gets a knee chest table, gets a C5000 infrared thermography unit, and starts segueing into an upper cervical practice. He's about 40% now, upper cervical. To watch them together in El Salvador and Irish prison is beautiful to watch these two. They have such an amazing relationship. Dr. Werner and Dr. McCarthy just graduated, and Dr. Werner is now practicing with his dad in Nevada. If you're from any of these, and you should really talk to Jess and Dr. McCarthy as students, if there's any of our docs that are in your home state or near, go visit them. They'll be more than happy to take you in. Dr. Cormack's right here in Tennessee, not too far. You can go see where Dr. Cormack. Nebraska, I don't know anybody who would want to go to Nebraska, but Dr. Pearson and Cannon are in Nebraska. And Dr. Sullivan's now here, but you're not practicing? Yeah. Still a good guy to hook up with, take him to lunch. So anywhere for a child that we can get the adjustment, so obviously the knee chest cable will work with anything, right? A baby you could put on it, a child. But if they're inconsolable and they're really not, just put them on the mom, or depending on anatomy, but dad's usually better. And the sternum becomes a really good adjusting table. And then they're connected with their parent. They usually relax a little bit better, and then they go from there. Okay, so we have what? We have field listings, we have palpation, we have different means that we can use that we gave you tonight that you can use right away to begin to make an analysis of what's going on as far as the misalignment component. We've given you a couple of tools that you would need to go get and do for the neurologic component. And you should begin to put those together. Then you can begin to address the vertebral subluxation in the proper way of how to analyze a child from any age all the way up to maturity, and then just segue them into regular care. Now here's one really interesting point. So remember I told you about you can't feel like a newborn? You can't feel the nervous system? But what do you think if I took a newborn and ran a scan on them? How valid do you think that scan would be? Took a newborn and I ran a scan. It's crazy, right? The baby was just in a freaking tube, a tub, completely controlled for 40 weeks, and boom, like just dumped them in a snowbank, right? Everything, the light, the sound, the sensation. What do you think the neurologist is going to look like when you run a scan? All over the place. So you have to take all of these into consideration when you begin to do your metrics. So for us, do we check them? Yeah, of course we check them. If I get called to a hospital, I go check. I bring. Taking all of that into account. Would I check them when they're still all gooey? Well, what's the point? What am I going to check? Get ungooey and then I'll check you. Right? And then even then, we have to take into account what we're measuring and where they are in time. When we do the fossa reading, let's say you say, okay, I don't care what Dr. Andy says about that fossa reading thing, I'm still going to use it. So a lot of people say, well, I've heard both. The cold side is the side of laterality. The hot side is the side of laterality. Like, really, chiropractic, seriously? How about this? When I do a dual probe scan, what am I looking for? On anybody, adult or child. What am I looking for? What's it called? What am I looking for? Pattern. Well, I'm looking for change because I don't want to adjust them. But to adjust, I'm looking for pattern. Why not the same thing here? Why not look for pattern? Half a degree right, half a degree right, half a degree right, half a degree right, 3/4 of a degree left? That's not pattern, right? It's a pattern. Same thing with leg check, right? Well, if it's half an inch short right today, and it's a 1/4 of an inch short left tomorrow, well, what does that mean? I don't even know. What does that mean? What does that mean in other techniques? Shouldn't we also be looking at pattern? Because pattern is a measure of what? In anything. Pattern is the adherence to the same thing over and over again speaks to what? Lack of adaptability. So should every test be measured by that? That's the key. And if you can do that with all of the tests as you measure through from birth all the way up, now you have the keys of the kingdom to unlock. You have tonight, I gave you some tools that you'll be able to use to be able to analyze a child. Is that cool? Never be intimidated by a child or their reactions to care. Do you think all of them are pretty thrilled by you? Has anybody seen a lot of like special needs kids? Nobody? Do you think they're pretty easy to handle? God bless you. No, not so much, right? Do they deserve care? Do they deserve your time and your love? Do you have to accommodate to be able to get the information that you need? Do they deserve anything less from you? Speed is your most important asset. I can't stress this. I've already said it probably 100 times. I can't stress this more. Speed. Children respond rapidly to care if they do not reevaluate. Children are a gift. Enjoy your interaction with them. These are some gifts I got from Dr. McMullen. I'm going to give you one speed thing that you can start doing and you can start practicing. Would you like that? Okay. Every adjusted thrust in chiropractic techniques that have an adjusted thrust involve your triceps, right? If it's a chair, if it's a toggle, or whatever. And so to be able to develop the speed in that, you need to develop the speed in your triceps. And you do that by working on that principle I showed you before of relaxation, contraction, and relaxation. Now, for the most part, for most people, the first relaxation part is pretty easy. The contraction part for most people is pretty easy. The relaxation after contraction is probably the most difficult for everyone. Because what they do is they do this. And hold it. It has to be where you just completely relax even before the end range of the arm. So it's like the tricep is throwing the arm out. And now you're not pulling it back. You're not using your bicep to pull back. It's just the natural consequences of relaxing and the momentum of it hitting the end range and relaxing back. So I would recommend you do this for at least 10 to 15 minutes a day. You just hang. You just let your arm hang completely relaxed. And it doesn't have to be hard. Just start really slow. And if you can't get the relaxation part after, just practice contraction and relax. Contraction, relax. It should just freely move the hand a couple times after the movement. And you want to do both sides. Okay? Up. Everybody try it. Arms hang down. Everybody at home, try. I'm watching you. Arms, just try one at a time first. Just get your head in the tricep. Arm hangs down. And just let it. I would show you my arms, but I don't want to, make anybody cry. There's some big guys here, and they might get intimidated by my rippling muscles. Good kill. Weird, isn't it? Just starting at first, because the initial thing is to kind of like hold there. The key is you can't hold. You got to just let it. Crazy, huh? Cool. Okay, it's down. Valuable stuff tonight?
Yes.
Show me any hands. Anybody that wants to give me a takeaway. Give me a takeaway from tonight. One takeaway. One takeaway.
We can't keep the adjustment as a commodity.
Yes. Awesome. That's a great takeaway. De Puerto Rico, ¿qué dicen? Somebody.
Speed is everything.
Speed is everything. Awesome takeaway. Está bien? Delts, anything from the delts.
It's not the adjustment, it's the time between adjustments.
Oh, dude, the music between the notes. How'd you even know? The music between the notes. Has everybody heard that? Did you hear me say that? You ever heard me talk about the music between the notes? That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I like that.
Are you from Alaska? That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Are you going back?
I hope so.
Awesome. Okay. Really short and condensed. Sitting with Zach, who is playing the viola, learning it. I have no musicality at all. I hear stuff, I'm like, oh, that sounds good, and everybody's, that sucked. I'm like, yeah, that sounded really good. That sucked. So, nothing. From a family that, my mother-in-law, plays the harp. My brother-in-law was a concert cellist. My wife could, play a piano, from ear, hear a thing, and just start playing it. Really? So, here's Zach. He's got the paper music, and I want to be engaged in his journey. So, hey, Zach, what's this stuff? She says, Dad, this is the music. This is what we play. I said, cool. And I said, what are these? I knew, just from life, I knew what they were, but I wanted to engage him. And he said, what are these, little circle things and the line? So, Dad, those are the notes, and these bars on top, that tells me to connect the note, and these are the spaces and stuff like that. I said, oh, let me hear some stuff. And he starts playing. It wasn't great, but it was good. And he was playing along. Then he stopped. And he looks at me and he says, Dad, you know that I showed you those notes? Do you know if there was no space between the notes, it would just sound like noise? And I'm like, did my 14-year-old son just school me? That's in their life? And it hit me. That's chiropractic. Your adjustment is the note. It makes the music. It's like on the viola, if you pluck the string, does the pluck sound good? Pluck sounds bing, but it's the resonance of the sound waves within the viola coming out that's the music. Unplucked now. The pluck's there, but now the music's coming out. The adjustment's the pluck. You pluck it, boom, it's kind of ugly. But the music that occurs, now that innate's control is restored, that's where the music is. So talk about the music between the notes. Most of us out there, most chiropractors, man, we do make a lot of noise. Crack, 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 crack. Come in today, crack, 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 crack. No indictments on whatever. But how about we pause? Is it easy to crack a bone? It's totally easy to crack a bone. Does it need to be cracked? All of them? No. And if it doesn't need to be cracked, can you be doing damage? So even if you're a full spine doc, a full spine student in the clinic now, why don't you do this? Next patient that comes in, do your analysis. Let's say you come up with 3 segments. Why don't you just walk away, go check the next patient, and come back to the same patient. Hey, Mary, I'll be right back. Go check this one. Don't do anything to that one. Come back there and recheck. See if all 3 are there. Maybe only 2 are there. Maybe only 1's there. Maybe none are there. Just, you know what, Mary? You're doing great. Have a nice day. It's crazy. But where do we want them to be? Do we want them to be needing crack? No. We want to get them off crack. We want them to be functioning at 100%. Any more takeaways?
Mastery. Ownership of mastery.
Ownership of mastery. Would I love you with me? I would love you with me. I would love you all to be in the other specific. I would love to be a part of your journey. But whatever your journey is, I want you to be a master in it. Be it Toughness, be it Thompson, be it Gunstead, be it whatever. Just be a master. Put in the time. Find your mentors. Find those people that have put in the time. You put in the time. Be a master. Be the one that teaches the next generation. Any other takeaways? Thank you so much. Just so everyone knows, I'm here this whole weekend. My time's going to be crazy. You can friend me on Facebook if you need to ask me any questions. If you want to join us, we're at the Hampton Inn. We are teaching level 1 of the Art of the Specific, which is Friday all day, Saturday all day, and Sunday most of the day. Caleb can get you information about it. If you want to start, it's not too late. Starts 8 o'clock tomorrow, so we need to shuffle things around, but you'd be more than happy to join us. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
So, number one, thank you, Dr. Roberts. Planning early. Thank the Delps for hosting us at a moment's notice. Dr. Roberts is a Delp. I don't know if you said that.